Hello, hello. You know what time it is, witches. It's time to get your goat and get a drink because it's time to talk movies with the Witches Movie Coven. It's Wednesday night, that's right. And I am your wrangler tonight. Patti Negri is off doing witchy things. I believe she's in Arizona, and I'm sure we will get to hear about it next week. But I am here, Heather Greene. Uh, as I said, your wrangler for the evening, and I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft. And I am also an editor at Llewellyn Worldwide and a journalist covering all things occult in the media. But I am not alone here as a host of this wonderful Wednesday night coven meeting. Let's see who else is here tonight. We've got my other co-host, Jason Mankey. And
I am Do
well,
it first. Go.
Well,
the apparition.
We'll get to you in a second, Dodie. Let's start with Jason. Go ahead. Who are you, Jason?
I am Jason Mankey, author of how many books? 10 books for Llewellyn Worldwide, including the Witch's Book of Spellcraft among those titles. And that's really all I am. A curmudgeon, a harmless drudge, and a book writer.
And that is okay. Well, who else do we have from our regular co-host? We've got Richard-Lael here tonight in the house.
I am Richard-Lael. Yes, Richard-Lael is one name, not two names. If I were just Richard, I'd be a... That's right. Absolutely, I would be. Anyway, I am known as a gentleman psychic. I'm a psychic medium. I used to be a psychic in a small until I gained some weight. However, while you are here, if you want to sleep with me, you can go right over here to this QR code and you can order this pillow right here and you can sleep with me as frequently as you like to. Many people do. I can't tell you how many people do sleep with me because of that pillow right there. At some point, you'll be able to get into Patty's panties again when the whole thing gets down. But you can order our books, you can get our quotes, you can be a bro witch, you can do all of these things. Join the coven right here. Also, those likes, those subscribes, those comments, we see you. We love you. We need those to keep giving you great entertainment. That is what we have.
Thank you very much for that. And that is all correct. And now we are going to find out who our guests are because both Courtney and Patti are not, unfortunately, here with us tonight, off doing wonderful things. So let's see. We have our regular contributor and guest of the coven, Scarlett Sarah Amaris.
It will not die.
I was going to say, I might as well just adopt that as a middle name now. I am Scarlett Amaris. I am a screen and television writer. I also direct music videos. I work a lot in horror and in witchcraft, and I also teach the witchcraft behind what I write for the screen. So that's me. That's what I do.
Well, welcome back. And I think maybe our first time guest coming to you from Canada, Dodie Graham McKay, who popped in at the perfect time. I think you have a lot to share about this. We'll get to it later, but who are you, Dodie?
Well, my name's Dodie Graham McKay. I'm a writer and I am a filmmaker sometimes. Chicken enthusiast, apparently. And apparently I'm also a resident of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, which is the home of the most rabid Phantom of the Paradise fans in the world.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear all about that. But before we talk about this week's movie, The Phantom of the Paradise, 1974, and before we dig in and find out what everyone thought and details, we need sort of a synopsis from our regular synopsis writer, speaker, unbiased synopsis from Richard-Lael for anyone who has not seen the film. Take it away.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey. Oh, that's the wrong film. Doesn't matter. So here's the story about, yes, you see there is some connection, though I think nothing can replace the actual sensuality of Tim Curry. He's ever so delicious. Rocky. which is sort of what the film wants to be. Unfortunately, for some people, it tanked. I mean, in the 70s, it definitely tanked. But this is a film that is loosely based on the 1910 novel The Phantom of the Opera, but it also is a rock opera. And it has this fellow who is a singer. And he is this wonderful composer. I say singer, he's not a singer. He's okay. He can carry a note sometimes. But he is a wonderful writer, and he has created this aria about selling your soul to the devil. And Mr. Swan is this sort of head of the record label who is opening up this new theater called The Paradise. And so he tells his assistant, yes, this is who I want. I want the lyrics. We'll take care of him. And as it turns out, this fellow has signed away a contract and doesn't realize that the music has been stolen, and that they are going to audition all of these girls to actually be the role. And then they end up by stealing the music from him and signing up a Nelly Fruit, who was formerly, I guess, of the Juicy Fruits, but he's Beef is who he is. And he is such a Nelly in the 70s, as you would see, with his glorious golden locks, not like Jason Mankey's because they're short. It's true. And then, of course, when this other fellow has realized what has happened, he's angry and he's hurt. And his idea is that Phoenix, the girl that was auditioning, is supposed to have been, she's the one that he wants to sing. Well, he breaks in, he decides he's going to destroy all of the records. And unfortunately for him, his face gets injured, pressed by a record machine. I can't explain the teeth, but his face gets pressed with a record machine, and then he sort of runs away and is hidden and is pronounced dead, even though he has escaped, and even though he was sentenced to years in prison. He was framed for drugs. Anyway, I feel like I'm on drugs. Long story short, he ends up by sort of being chained in this place to compose this music for this man that he sold his soul to. And then when he finds that Phoenix, the girl that he has wanted, is now sort of being seduced by the other Nelly Fruit, Mr. Swan, he tries to end his life. And then you find out that he can't because he signed in blood. And so he when it is found out that he has tried to end his life and he cannot, he takes the knife and decides to end the life of Mr. Swan. And Mr. Swan pulls the knife out and tells him basically that he's under contract as well. So it turns out that years before, Mr. Swan in the 1950s was a Nelly Fruit who thought he was glamorous and good looking and feared getting older. And so he was going to end his life on camera in the most dramatic way. And then, of course, he had an encounter with the devil. And I'm telling you, he got the worst end of the stick, because not only is he young forever, but he's that 70s young forever. I mean, come on. I'm all for the devil, but that is a lousy bargain. I mean, he's almost the double of Truman Capote. I mean, if I were going to sign away my non-existent soul, I would at least sign it away for good looks. I mean, anyway, sells his soul to the devil. Turns out that the Phantom of the Paradise now has escaped his dungeon. He was drugged. He was walled in. He was supposed to be sealed in forever. And then, of course, he breaks out. He tells the Nelly Fruit who's singing Beef. He tells him that if he does sing the music that is only supposed to be sung by Phoenix, that whoever shall sing my music other than Phoenix shall die. Try and stop me. I am already dead. Oh, that's another rock horror opera. Anyway, there's a lot of those. Anyway, he does escape, and the beef decides he's going to go down the back staircase because he's never come in the front door. That singer has always come in the back door, and so he is exiting by the back door. And when he's caught by the manager and said, no, you have to go and perform. And then, of course, he's fried on stage and the crowd loves it. And then, of course, at the end, you find out that there is this sort of glitch in the signatory, in the agreement. And that is that, okay, so Mr. Swan can live forever until the devil decides that he's over, unless, of course, he is photographed. And I mean, if you look like Truman Capote's ugly twin sister, you might also not want to be photographed. So anyway, he doesn't get the mask comes off, he gets photographed. Just at the point where he's going to steal the voice of Phoenix in a fake ceremony, and then there's a gunman and she's supposed to go, but it ends up by hitting the manager, and the mask falls off, and then he looks like he had spaghetti on a really bad date night. And she says, what has happened to your face? The phantom reappears, but now his gaping wound that he tried to end his own life is now reopened, because that's part of the pact, that if Mr. Swan goes, anyone that he's keeping alive goes. And then that's kind of the end. That's the end. That's kind of the end. And then there's a montage shot of scenes and pictures, and then there's music, and that's kind of it.
Okay, I think we all get it. Everyone clear now? Everyone cleared up on the plot. That's excellent. And we have no idea how you're going to actually wands up or wands down. So that's actually, I don't know. I couldn't tell from this one. So kudos.
You never know with him. He could trash a movie for 30 minutes, and then at the end, it's like, wands up.
Also,
I'm like, did you even listen to yourself?
He got his teeth. He got his teeth in Sing Sing when they pulled all of his teeth.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scarlett. I was ready to interject and defend that whole dental crisis. he was subjected to horrible things in Sing Sing because Swan pulled some strings.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, before we get any further, I think I have a few more extra things for you guys to know. So I'm going to give you some facts here, and then we'll pass it off to everybody to see what their opinions of this wonderful film are. So this is a 1974 film, and you can see this mask. I have my glasses on so I can read my notes. Directed by Brian De Palma. You might know Brian De Palma from Carrie. We've done Carrie here, and that is just probably one of the best witch films ever made. One of the most brilliant films. He also did so many others. Scarface, The Untouchables. We just had a list. So that's what Brian De Palma as. This film was recorded as being costing about $1.3 million at the time. But at the time, it only grossed $2,245, and most of them probably came from Winnipeg. If you adjust that number for inflation, that's around $15,000. Okay. It has since, though, become a cult film. People watch it, and I believe Dodie can speak to that more. And all the music was written by Paul Williams, which takes me to number 2, the cast, which we love to just go over. Small enough cast. I'm just going to mention a few of them. Paul Williams. We just saw a picture of him. I know him from the Muppet movie and from Emmett Otters and from all that kind of stuff. There he is talking to Kermit. That is the Paul Williams I know. However, he was also in Smokey and the Bandit. He was also in Star is Born. He wrote the award-winning song for Star is Born, Evergreen. He wrote a huge number of songs. He was in a band. There's the list of songs. He is a renowned songwriter and well known for that. He is actually still alive. I didn't realize he was still alive, but he is. He is 85 years old, 85 years young. So Paul Williams, especially if you grew up during that period of time, you will recognize him most certainly. William Finley plays the Phantom. Winslow, he was in a few things, including The Black Dahlia. He was also known during the 1970s. Let's talk about Jessica Harper. We've seen her before in Suspiria, 1977. We reviewed that movie maybe about a year ago. She was also in Stardust Memories, Love and Death, and a few other things you might recognize her from. Garrett Graham was in he played Beef, the Beef, which we mentioned here with the blonde hair. He was in Used Car, Star Trek. There he is right there. And finally, George Mamoli. You might recognize him from some Scorsese films, New York, New York, Mean Streets, Rocky. He was in a bunch of that. You heard his New York accent. I'm sure that was part of that. And I also want to talk about one other little secret person who actually didn't star but auditioned, Sissy Spacek. She actually auditioned for the main role of Phoenix, didn't get the part, was working on the set as a set designer, but made the connection with Brian De Palma, which eventually led to her starring in Carrie. So this was one of her first connections with Brian De Palma. So let's go to number 3, location. So this is obviously set in New York. You can see the settings there, everything like that. There actually is the Paradise Theater. It's in the Bronx. However, this isn't really based on that, but there is an actual theater called the Paradise in the Bronx in New York. But this was filmed in Los Angeles and Dallas, and it's notable because the actual theater itself is called the Majestic, an old movie palace, just like the Paradise in New York, in Dallas, where most of that was filmed. And then the big castle that Swan lived in, that's a famous location in Greystone Mansion in LA. It's been in a lot of films, so you might have recognized that. I believe I have a list of a couple of them.
Batman. It was Bruce Wayne's house in the 60s.
There you go. Yeah, it's
was
a huge
Death
list.
Becomes Her as the mortuary.
There you go. It's very common location, very famous location. So let's go to 4, origins. Faust, of course, was mentioned. It's a Faustian tale. Sell your soul to the devil. The standard tale, the age-old tale. Of course, he says at some point the famous tale of Faust, the musician selling his soul to the devil. The original Faust was not a musician. If from my historical remembrance, he was looking for other things, power of magic, whatever. And that's changed. Of course, you have various forms of Faust in all kinds of artistic stage and screen venues being played out. However, this also, as Richard-Lael pointed out, is also pulling from Phantom of the Opera. Of course, I know Phantom of the Opera as the musical. That didn't come out till 1986. So this predates that. This is based on the novel and those retellings. There are other movies, Phantom of the Opera. So you can see those connections. This isn't exact, but it's definitely pulling from those narrative traditions. Here we go. And then, of course, the last one is, hold on a second. What Richard-Lael also pointed out is the 1970s, and of course, I have to bring this up. It was a big time for musicals. It was the rebirth of not only the stage musicals, but also the screen musicals. So like on stage, you had this trend, this movement away from the traditional musicals like Oklahoma, Rodgers and Hammerstein. And you move to things like Hair and Chorus Line, The Wiz, things that captured the unique time they were in. And that came to movies as well. The number of musicals at this point during the 70s was massive. So things like Fiddler were more traditional, but and award-winning and amazing. But you had rock operas, as Richard-Lael has pointed out, Tommy, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Jesus Christ Superstar, Godspell, Hair, Sgt. Pepper's. There are more. These are other ones. There's disco. You have Saturday Night Fever. You have Xanadu, of course, is 1980. We have
Grease.
I have hold on a second. I got a list, man. I got this is my genre. New York, New York, which is one Scorsese's musical. You had Fosse doing all that jazz and cabaret. You had Grease, of course, 1970s. You also had on stage and screen all black musicals like The Wiz and Pearly on stage. I don't know that that ever was made into a screen. You also have kid movies. Disney was not letting go. You had Pete's Dragon, the Muppet movie, of course, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It just was a golden age, or whatever happens after golden ages. It wasn't a golden age because that was earlier. It was a huge time, both on stage and in cinema, for musicals. Why? That's for another time, but this is actually, this musical here fits the genre, fits what's going on at the time. And so that's is a number 6 for my bit, and it is the strange phenomenon that happened in Winnipeg. That's sort of the thing, but I'm not going to tell you that story. See, this movie flopped in most of the US. It flopped in most of Canada, probably.
World.
And for the world. I mean, what was that? $15,000 it made. I mean, that's initially. So, but yet in this little place in Winnipeg, it was the star of the show.
Well, and I'm a Winnipegan, so I'm going to defend the honor of the Phantom until my dying breath. I will not say anything negative, no matter how much Jason Mankey baits me. I will not say anything negative about this film. I was just a toddler in '74 when it came out, but all the big kids were getting to go to the cinema to see it. I mean, it only lasted a mere 18 weeks when it opened here, and it opened here after it was like a Christmas Boxing Day release here, and it had been released in November in the States. So, Winnipeg knew what it was getting into when it picked up this flopped film and started at the old Garrick Theater here, started showing it. But in the 2 years that followed, it screened it's somewhere in Winnipeg for a total of 62 weeks over the course of 2 years. I mean, it was a big deal. And here's a little bit of Little Dodie history. Here's my original soundtrack album. It sold 20,000 copies in Winnipeg alone. At that time, a city of just under 500,000 people. We sell 20,000 copies of this cuckoo weird soundtrack here. I mean, the album went gold in Canada. It was a big deal, mostly because of Winnipeg. Okay, but whatever. But for some reason, this kind of thing was just a giant hit in town, and I grew up with it. I didn't know until I was in my 20s that it wasn't a huge film in the rest of the world. And as what I said, Jason's going to try to bait me all night. But, it was a huge, huge thing. I mean, you couldn't drive down, anywhere downtown without seeing a cinema having that on the marquee. It was a big deal. And well into the 80s and 90s, it would be like a double bill with Rocky Horror at either a porn theater or a art house cinema. It was just something you did on a Friday night. You dressed up like, one of the characters from Rocky, and you went and saw the double bill. Awesome. So much fun. That's how I grew up.
Wow. That is amazing.
I have a lot of energy for this.
And who is that you brought with you real quick, just out of curiosity?
Well, this is everybody. I'd like to introduce officially the Wiccan Chicken. I was asked by some coven mates, why is it that, Jason Mankey and Heather Greene have these, goat stuffies? Like, why don't you have one? And I said, well, I'm not cool enough. And, if it was me, I'd be left to my own devices. I would definitely go for, something else like a chicken or a Wiccan chicken or something. And yeah, so this is my tribute. Jason's got a whole flock going on over there.
I had the original Black Phillip, which is why his fur is more matted than the rest of them. And then I got it. Well, he's been around the world. He's been to Europe several times. And then I got, of course, Bling Phillip. So, they're buddies. They always have to be on the show.
Well, someday we'll get all.
And if I need to cough, I can just do this and nobody knows. That's the best thing.
Well, who else has thoughts and feels about this movie?
I have a question, Can I jump in real quick? Dodie, have you ever been to the? I know in Winnipeg that they have the big festival. Where it's not like every year; it's every few years. But I went to a screening of this movie last year at the Arrow, and some of the original members were there, and like Ed Pressman's son, Ed Pressman Jr. was there, and they were all talking about this. The Winnipeg con that they have for this movie and how there's thousands of people there, and it's like the best time that everyone has. Like they were all raving about it.
Yeah, it's called Phantom Palooza, and you're right. It happens erratically. It kind of happens like there was a huge Phantom Palooza for the 40th anniversary of the film, and I think I was at Mystic South when that happened. I was at a pagan event. And sometimes they'll just do one-offs, but they've had all of the surviving cast has been here at one time or another to do these things. And you're right, thousands of people show up. Getting a ticket is like, it's like the Holy Grail, you know, it's so hard to do. And Paul Williams gets rolled out like a king at these things. Like people go nuts when he's in town, and there'll be, you know, the news will be talking about Paul Williams sightings. And he was, you know, he's what, 85 now. So he was, the last time he was here was, I think, 5 years ago. And, you know, he needed a lot of assistance, but he did it, and he sang a bit, and it was pretty epic for the city. Yeah, amazing. People go bonkers, but Winnipeg in that era picked up on a few strange kind of rock and roll phenoms that just really imprinted, whether it was like this film or you know, the band called Audience, their album House on a Hill. Absolutely, like it sold gold. It went gold in Canada just based on the sales in Winnipeg alone. So there's these kind of cultish things that are just bizarre. But you know, when I've been trying to convince Heather that, you know, this is the most superior musical ever created to cinema, and it's led to this moment and us all being here together. So yeah, pretty special.
Dodie, why do you think that this movie has resonated so much in Winnipeg? Could it be that it's because in 1974, Winnipeg only had an AM radio station that played the moos of cow available for people to listen to? Do you think that might be it?
Well, you know, I won't make fun of you, Jason, but you know, just because you don't understand, you know, it might be just way over your head. But I you know, I remember the first time I ever saw Phantom, it was so relatable to me because we had so many beautiful vaudeville theaters here that had been converted into movie houses. And yeah, there's me and my coven hanging out in front of the Museum for Human Rights there. Very nice. But I mean, it just looked relatable. And Winnipeg's a pretty rock and roll town. So a rock and roll musical that was just weird enough. And it also came out in winter. And seriously, man, there is nothing else to do here in winter. And movie theaters are warm. So there you go. Everybody went and watched it. But yeah, huge thing. Come on, ask me another question.
Jason Mankey.
Yeah. Come on, we need more opinions.
You know, I will say, watching this film, I thought it looked better than Rocky Horror, which kind of made me sad. Though the songs, I think, are very much superior in Rocky Horror. But also, this movie is sort of like the inverse of Rocky Horror, because I was pretty bored the first 45 minutes. And then all of a sudden, this movie like really kicks in at the end when it goes totally bonkers. And I always felt like Rocky just sort of kind of drifted away and just wasn't as exciting towards the end. And this movie does the entire opposite of things. You know, you've got the band that sort of looks like Kiss come out on stage, and then things really get going. And then, of course, 18 minutes later, the whole thing is over once it has piqued your interest. But, you know, a very interesting flow to this particular film.
Well, it does have like a darker filter on the whole thing, you know, that it's really capitalizing on that satanic 70s kind of edge, you know, and the whole, you know, Swan Dorian Gray, you know, he has to watch the footage of himself aging, you know, privately, and then so he can go out in the world and still look like his weird Muppetish self. You can't really say anything bad about Paul Williams. I mean, he wrote Rainbow Connection, you guys. Like,
And
This
Emmett
is
Otter.
true. This is true.
yeah,
This is true.
The lyrics to the Emmett Otter special. I mean, that's Pantheon for me and Heather right there. I think Dodie too, right? Emmett Otter.
It's pretty special. Like, you know, he's woven into the soundtracks of our lives one way or the other, you know.
But I think he was miscast in this particular role.
Well, it is a bit insane, but that it kind of what makes it work. You know, it's just so stupid that it. Who is this guy, and why is he being treated like some kind of, you know, sex symbol, ultimate, you know, sexy satanic? He sold his soul and so he could stay Paul Williams forever. I mean, it's just so weird.
The funniest part for me is when Paul Williams comes in, Mr. Swan comes in, and Winslow is on the bed in a so 70s fashion. He's on the bed with all of these girls who are all around him. And then Mr. Swan comes in and he says, "Get this F slur out of here." And then he's like, "All right, ladies." And I went, come on. Which one is the real F slur?
You know, Paul Williams in a kimono. What, like that is just about as weird as it gets.
I have to say that is one of the weirdest sex scenes too, like between him and Jessica Harper. It's in slow-mo and it is extremely just uncomfortable.
Upsetting is the word.
There's no chemistry whatsoever.
Oh my
wow. Goodness. And you had a still ready for that. There's a lot about the producer right now. I'm kind of scared.
So Scarlett, do you love this movie?
I
know you love
actually,
70s.
I do love this movie, and it's weird because I'm not huge on musicals. I'll just be honest about that. But there's something so gonzo about this movie. It's shot really, really well, and a lot of really, for as much handheld is done, and I can tell that there's a lot of like guerrilla, we're just going to go for it. There's still like a lot of very cool shots that they use, like the way that they always have Swan like in that darkened doorway. And then you turn around and you have the POV where he can see everything. Like there's a lot of stuff they do that's very simple but effective, which is done really well. I was lucky enough to know some behind the scenes things. So Ed Pressman, who was the producer for it, is from the Pressman Toys. Like he's the heir to the Pressman Toys company. And so that's why in the beginning you see them in the jail playing tiddlywinks. And then when he gets his face burned in the record thing, that's actually a toy press. And like it kept malfunctioning the day that they did that. So some of the panic that you see is real. He didn't actually get hurt, but like it was kind of a close call. And I also know that the helmet that he wore was way too small. It was like incredibly uncomfortable to wear. So there's all these kinds of little things in this. I appreciate the gonzo-ness of it. You know, like you couldn't make this movie today. I mean, I guess you could, you couldn't get $1 million to make this movie today. Like there's no way that it would happen. But I appreciate the spirit of it. You know, there's something very like, it's joie de vivre, but, you know, mixed with horror. And I see also like the influence that it had. You have Kiss comes after this, and Alice Cooper comes after this, and look at Marilyn Manson's teeth. And, you know, like I see the way that it's gone down the ages. And I'm sure that it had, and I know it had a huge impact on music video directors in the 80s, you know, like Russell McKay having painted faces in some of his videos. Like there's Jazz Coleman from Killing Joke. I was like, when I saw the Juicy Fruits become that like the gothy band. I was like, oh, I remember when Jazz painted his face like that. So I see the influence in the way that it's gone down the ages. And I think, you know, for its time and for that amount of money, like they really kind of tapped into something.
I think that's true, and I think that's what a lot of the musicals, and I am a big musical fan, were trying to do at this point. Was it wasn't an attempt to resurrect the genre, but the early 70s, late 60s, but more the 70s are known for that revolution in music and artistic revolution and the change that happens. And I just watched a documentary about the power of the 70s, 71, 72, and what that did culturally, but specifically how music was a part of it and the radical changes that were happening. And I think this movie captures that in the crazy, the mayhem, the oddities, the strangeness, everything that was going on in the culture at the time, as well as through the music, as well as that changeover with that band. I hadn't seen this movie before. I've seen a lot of 70s musicals, and I haven't seen this movie before. Of course, immediately comparing it to the obvious Rocky Horror Picture Show. And both of them, for me, are very different types of musicals, both as movies and as musicals. And I think the Phantom is a better film, just overall. It's filmed better. It's put together better in many ways. But they're both equally bizarre. But Rocky Horror functions as a musical more traditionally, where the music doesn't stream into the story itself and the narrative. Rocky Horror, like a traditional musical, stops and uses the music, the song, as glitter and fluorescent lights pointing at the point. So it stops the narrative at that point to reiterate what's going on. It's the exclamation point in music. So Rocky Horror's music to me sticks in my head. I sing it, I hear it. This wouldn't necessarily do it. The music was amazing. And so they're different and they have different points, but they're equally as fun. I had a blast watching Phantom of the Paradise. I won't watch it all that, I'm not going to get up and dance and dress up necessarily, although I'm wearing a mask. But okay, only if I come to Winnipeg and watch it, Dodie. then we're on.
Well, you're sitting there dressed up. Telling
I know,
you not to dress up.
Well, I'm a big Phantom of the Opera fan, so I can sing all the songs from Phantom of the Opera, and I love the musical Phantom of the Opera. And I'm not a big Andrew Lloyd Webber fan, but I do love Phantom of the Opera. And so throughout the movie, I am hearing Phantom of the Opera songs at points where I'm like, okay, break out in song right now. Let's go. Come on.
That would have.
And I'm watching the points.
Helped.
So that, for me, that was fascinating.
I do, as a member of the Kiss Army, as someone who dressed up as Ace Frehley for Kiss as a child, Kiss was formed in 1973, and their first album was released in February of 1974. So they were not influenced by this film. The film was influenced by Kiss, and Alice Cooper had already released Schools Out in 1972. So very much, I think that's an homage to Kiss and Alice Cooper versus the other way around. But that is just because I had a Kiss lunchbox, and I have to defend Kiss when it's necessary, and this was a point. So yes, but that was my favorite part of the whole movie because it did remind me of Kiss in a lot of ways, because it was supposed to remind me of Kiss. And I think that part of the message was Paul Williams doesn't like bands like Kiss. That was what I got out of that, even though I enjoyed that segment.
Come on, look at those guys.
I wanted to say, I absolutely despise the 70s nostalgia for the 50s. I hate Grease. I hate that. What's that show? Happy Days. I hate the 70s idolizing the 50s. Now, and what's even funnier is we're actually, that look that they're going for is the late 50s. This is like 57, 58, 59, 1960. So by 1974, this is no more than 15 years before. Can you imagine everyone sort of being nostalgic for 15 years ago? I mean,
Yeah.
that being true, though, on one hand, 15 years ago, Barack Obama was president. I am a little bit
I'm
nostalgic about that.
nostalgic for that.
I am nostalgic about that,
Mm.
but not the music, not the clothes, not anything else. I hate the 1950s anyway. I hate the 70s rose-colored lenses. Sorry, Jason, of the 1950s.
But to be fair, at the beginning of the film, the first band, the first iteration of the band is the Juicy Fruits, who are the
Yeah.
corny 50s nostalgia,
To
right?
be fair.
And then it goes into the Juicy Fruits sort of morph into the surf band, right? And then it's the same band, and because they have all sold their souls, then they morph into the Undead, who are like, look at those guys. Like, Jason, you're a huge Ghost fan. You need to know who this band is in order to truly appreciate Ghost. You know, and it was a time when you had all of those great influences. You had Kiss coming out, Alice Cooper breaking, all that great, you know, shock rock, weird eyeliner, and, you know, that sort of
The abominable Dr. Phibes. I am already dead. Whoever shall try and stop me shall die.
Do we have any quotes from this movie? I know Courtney's not here, so
Swan stole my music and framed me. Or my favorite quote, I know drug reel from real. Come on. Those are great quotes.
It's also, while I was looking at some of the aspects of this film, the original name was not Death Records for Swan's record label. It was Swan Song. However, that had recently been copyrighted by the band Led Zeppelin as the name of their record label. So right before this movie came out, they actually had to try to remove all instances of Swan Song. Though if you look closely, you can actually see it in a couple of different places. I love movies that have connections to the greatest rock band of all time, Led Zeppelin. I once breathed the same air as Jimmy Page with Dodie and Dodie at the same time. One of the greatest nights of my life.
Jimmy Page was my neighbor when I lived in Hollywood. Of course, he was dead then. And I lived next to Hollywood Forever Cemetery, but he was still my neighbor.
And you have that going for you.
It's so true. Not only was Jimmy Page my neighbor, my lover was Rudolph Valentino, and I would go over and bring him lunch every single day. So it's no wonder I'm single.
I was like, Jimmy Page is still alive.
Oh, then who's the one that is buried there?
I had a friend who dated him a few years ago.
Wait a minute. I'm completely wrong. Who? I thought it was someone from Led Zeppelin who was there.
John Bonham? I don't think he's buried there.
Robert Plant? Robert Plant?
John
Bonham died in 1980.
It was the Plant fellow.
No, Robert Plant's still alive too.
And he's still alive too.
Wait a minute. Well, then I can't remember. I don't remember who it was who was. I don't know. It was one of the rock stars. His tombstone is that of like he's with a guitar. I don't know who it is.
Dee Dee Ramone.
I just assumed this was a bit, Richard-Lael, so I wasn't going to interrupt while you were doing it. You know, like that was what I just assumed was happening.
Let's go with that.
Well, whoever it was, there was the Ramones. It was one of the Ramones.
That's what I just said. It was Dee Dee Ramone.
Yeah, that's the one. So one of the Ramones was my neighbor. I don't know. I didn't listen to that kind of music. I don't know.
It's very far from Led Zeppelin. I mean, rock and roll high school versus Stairway to Heaven and Kashmir. You know, one is here, Led Zeppelin, and the other is fine. It's the Ramones, but it's not Led Zeppelin.
And Jason, on that note, do you have a rocking Mankey movie minute for us tonight?
Well, of course, I've come up with a little bit of something. I need to tell you all that Dodie and I go way back. And so it was very important to me not to be too cruel because of my love for Dodie.
When has that ever stopped you before, Jason? Oh my God. Anyway.
15 years, I think now, right? Something like that. Yeah.
Well, at least, yeah.
Ever since Dodie handed me a copy of her movie Winnipegans in a hallway and said, I want you to have this. And I was like, oh, I bet this is terrible. And I put it in a drawer. And then 2 years later, had nothing to do. So with our coven, so we got it out and watched it. And it's a brilliant film. Brilliant film. Yeah. One of the best pagan documentaries ever made, Winnipegans. I really think you should watch it. Anyways, here it is. Me trying to be nice to this movie. But I'm not going to start with this movie. I want to start with a movie that was on TV a lot when I was growing up. And that movie was Eddie and the Cruisers. If you had HBO in the mid-'80s, Eddie and the Cruisers played on a loop all the time. If you're not familiar with Eddie and the Cruisers, it's the story of a band from the mid-'60s whose lead singer, Eddie, like it's never the drummer's name first. His name is Eddie, and he dies mysteriously. Or does he? Half the story is told in flashback. The other half of the movie is set in the present day with band members recounting their memories of Eddie. And then apparently 20 years after their heyday, Eddie and the Cruisers are more popular than ever before. And during the course of the film, the movie does just enough to make you think that Eddie might still be alive. And then lo and behold, the movie ends with Eddie watching a TV outside of an appliance store. That was something that people did in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and early 80s, kids. And then the credits roll. The mystery is solved. Eddie was alive all along and faked his own death. If this story sounds familiar, it's clearly a ripoff of the idea that Jim Morrison of The Doors faked his own death back in 1971. What doesn't make any sense at all about this movie is why anyone would be listening to the music of Eddie and the Cruisers 20 years after Eddie's death. The music in this film sounds like it was written by a group of dads who play in a garage band and drink a lot of beer, and not even good beer. The music simply isn't good enough that anyone would care about Eddie or his Cruisers even 18 months later. Because if you're going to make a movie or television show where a performer allegedly performs legendary music, the music needs to be damn good. Over on Amazon Prime 2 years ago, there was a show called Daisy Jones and the Six, chronicling the rise and fall of a group very much like Fleetwood Mac. The group was so much like Fleetwood Mac that the songs the show came up with for Daisy Jones and her Six sound very much like someone typed, make a new Fleetwood Mac song from something like Rumors into AI, and then it spat out the Daisy Jones soundtrack. Blech. The band Player never got a documentary or a biopic, and for good reason. Despite recording Baby Come Back, the rest of their discography just isn't very good. If Daisy Jones and the Six had been a real band, they would have been in the same category as Player. Certainly not a group deserving of a documentary. There's a TV show that a lot of my friends liked on Netflix that came out a year or two ago called Chaos. Jeff Goldblum stars as Zeus, and one of the main characters in the show is Orpheus. If you know anything about Orpheus, Orpheus was the greatest musician who ever lived, period. And in this show, Chaos, he plays sold-out stadium concerts. But the music he plays is bland and uninspiring. It's like this show on nights we're all just phoning it in. You know those nights. Courtney has 2 quotes. Richard-Lael clearly didn't watch the movie. And I just sing the boobs and butts song instead of coming up with something new or clever. That's what Orpheus sounds like in Chaos. And I couldn't finish the TV show because Orpheus sucked so hard. If you are going to feature the greatest musician in the history of myth, he had better be good, or else don't bother. Which leads me, of course, to Phantom of the Paradise. Credit to Paul Williams, he wrote The Rainbow Connection, as featured in the Muppet movie, and as we've said before, he contributed lyrics to all the songs in Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. But clearly, while he was writing music for Phantom of the Paradise, he was high on something. And not the good drugs that led Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, who are both still alive, Richard-Lael, to write Led Zeppelin 4. Or the acid that led Roger Waters and David Gilmour to write Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. Perhaps Williams should have hit up Marvin Gaye for the weed Marvin was smoking while he was recording What's Going On. The point here is that whatever drugs Williams was on were not good drugs, and they did not help the creative process. The idea that anyone would hear the utterly uncharismatic and schlubbly Winslow Leach, the Phantom, playing his song Faust and then go, this guy's songs are worth $1 million, is the height of ridiculousness. I would rather listen to Milli Vanilli or watch the UFC fight on the White House lawn. There's just nothing there. Nothing memorable. Do you know how much of the music I remember from this movie? Nothing. It made no impression at all. Are we supposed to believe that people got all excited about the sonic equivalent of shopping at an Ann Taylor store? Phantom of the Paradise would have made a lot more sense if they'd had James Brown playing the Phantom. That's music I can imagine someone stealing. That's music so good, I can see it being inspired in part by the devil. That's a dude that had some charisma, and of course a lot of other issues, but he certainly would have made this better. As you've heard tonight, for whatever reason, Phantom really resonated in Winnipeg, Canada. During my research, I found out that the crash test dummies are from Winnipeg, Canada, and now it all makes sense to me.
Wow.
Wow, those are fighting words.
Wow.
No, wait. I do completely agree with the music. I'm not walking away from this musical singing the songs. It's always one of my tests of how good a musical is. So I agree that this music doesn't hit you like that. It doesn't hit you, but I felt it worked in it. I felt I wasn't repelled by the music as you were, Jason. I thought it worked inside the musical, inside the environment. Am I remembering the songs? No. That's reserved for Rocky Horror Picture Show and whatever. So I'm not. It hit differently, but I totally get. It did not have the same resonance as some of Paul Williams' other songs. Rainbow Connection, not at all. Not at all. So
yeah, it was disappointing. I was really expecting a better soundtrack, and it just didn't grab me. And I love music from the 70s. Clearly, I mean, I'm wearing the Zeps t-shirt tonight, but I don't know. It just left me a little bit cold. It was disappointing, especially after all the 10 years of Dodie hyping up this movie for me.
Well, and to be fair, hey, I was indoctrinated as a child. You guys are watching this film as adults who are looking at it to critique it for a show. As a kid with my Kiss lunchbox and loving all of that kind of, showy, big rock and roll. And also seeing it in a theater with people standing in the aisle singing along. That's a very different experience than, begrudgingly downloading a copy because you have to do this, or because I attack you every time I see you and say, have you watched Phantom yet? It's if you'd had the context for the way this should be experienced, young, bright-eyed and full body contact with seeing it on a big screen with a huge group of people who are singing along. And that's such a troubling still from Smoking the Bandit.
Well,
the polyester of those suits is like abrasing me through the screen. Oh my goodness.
I am clearly not the target audience for K-pop demon hunters. And yet I can say that those songs, especially Golden and a few others, are really good songs, and they hit the nail on the head with the songs, and they just didn't here, and I am perpetually a 12-year-old child.
And now
the whole
thanks, Jason.
You're welcome. so the whole argument that I'm an adult doesn't really apply. Go text Ari after this and ask her how much of an adult I am. She will tell you not very much.
Well, let's see how the voting goes with this then. So I think I could guess some of you. So everybody, one's up, one's down for Phantom of the Paradise.
My wand is across the room, so I'm gonna have to use a ruler. Ruler's up.
We've got what? We've got 4 ups and Jason is halfway sideways. I don't know if I think my feed might have gone out. So if somebody else can see, we need you to vote in the chat, and I don't know if I'm seeing it. So
One's
one's
down.
down.
Even though I liked it as a kid. Is that Courtney?
Wow.
That would
One's
be Courtney.
up.
Tabitha, one's up. Lisa, one's down. Ridiculous, wand up. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, well, it looks like this is one to watch then.
Robert Hicks has
Even though we
got
have
a really good head on his shoulders and went with wands neutral, which is the way to vote this evening, I think.
Did you expect that I was going to go up this time?
I did.
I did not know.
I did.
And now for something a little bit the same, a little bit zany, and another musical next week will be Eurovision. And that is my birthday pick. And I just would like to say it was between that and Hundreds of Beavers, and I chose Eurovision. So you guys can thank me now. So I guess all we need to do now is find out what everyone's got going on. Anything? Anyone?
I will be at the Pagan Unity Festival in Tennessee starting on the 18th, 17th of June through the 21st. It's a really great festival. It's one of my favorite outdoor pagan festivals. If you live in the Southeast, I highly recommend that you go and hang out with me while I talk at Puff.
Anyone else?
I'm starting a new esoteric salon this Saturday, online starting at 10:30 a.m. Yeah, and I'm excited about that. It's going to go for 6 weeks consecutively. Yes,
What's
I'm
it
teaching. This is about the Forbidden Pantheon. It's about the chthonic divine.
Sounds great. Anyone else? Richard-Lael?
I'll be at
Dodie?
University of Magicus, of course, and then here in New Orleans. Also, thegentlemanpsychic.com. I am really easy to find, so I'm everywhere. So if you're in New Orleans, come down. Yeah, there's University of Magicus. I am there. Anyway, I teach there a couple times a month, and then I am thegentlemanpsychic.com. And I am, if you find yourself in New Orleans and you want a good seance and you want to come into my home, I like to give you a tour, or you can have tea, or we'll do a seance, or I'll do cards, whatever. But I'm easy to find right there.
Well, I'm in book jail right now because I'm trying to get this manuscript finished, but that's it. If anybody wants to check out the short films I've made, you can find me at dodiegrahammckay.com.
That's right. Including Winnipegans?
Including Winnipegans.
It is a fine film. Some of your other films are really good too.
Polar bears.
Yeah.
And Dodie has this in the Winnipegans, has a special pagan camera that is was never used before and probably never used since. It's propped on top of the maypole. It's the maypole cam. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's how you and I bonded, Heather, was that you were so impressed that I mounted a GoPro on top of a maypole to get an aerial shot of what it looks like from the maypole's point of view. So.
Well, that's very true. I'll never forget that. And I am actually in the process of prepping for Mystic South, which is mid-July. I am on the board there. So that's in Atlanta. Believe it's the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And my mask is falling, so I can't see y'all. And it is good 600-700 of your closest witchy friends every year. We'll be celebrating 10 years next year, but this year is 9. So come y'all and visit us. Come on down. And that's coming up. So I'm in the process of prepping for that and doing other work. And you can find us and subscribe, look at us on our websites, come visit us on social media. We're all there and ready to talk, and come back next week to discuss Eurovision. I think there is only one thing left to do right now. And you know what witches do? We cackle.
Curse Jesus. I see you there, Lillian. I see you, Lillian.
I think we cackle though. So let's cackle, everybody. Ready? 1,